If you've ever seen a kangaroo just chilling on a golf course, or maybe hopping along a suburban street, it's a bit of a weird sight, right? I mean, they're these icons of the Aussie wilderness, but here they are, practically our neighbors. So, let's get into it and really explore how these animals are changing to survive and even thrive in our world.
And that brings up a really big question. Are these town roos the same as their country roo cousins out in the bush? Are they living the same lives, behaving the same way? Well, to figure this out, a group of researchers in Australia set up this really fascinating experiment to compare the two.
What they did, essentially, was create a tale of two very different kangaroo communities. This gave them an amazing, direct, side-by-side look into their lives.
So picture this. On one side, you've got the developed site near Sydney. Think active farmland, but it's all broken up by roads and buildings. This is our town roo turf. And on the other side, the natural site in Woolgan Valley, a massive, protected wilderness. This is home to our country roos. These two completely different worlds really set the stage for an incredible comparison.
You might be wondering, how on earth do you watch kangaroos without spooking them? Well, the key was using a cool piece of tech called camera traps. These are basically motion-activated infrared cameras that just sit there and record whenever an animal walks by. No humans around. This gives us a totally unfiltered window into their true, natural behavior.
And the whole method was actually pretty simple, but really clever. The camera traps, they captured videos of what the kangaroos were doing, how big their groups were, the whole daily grind. Then they used something called pellet counts, which, let's be honest, is just a scientific way of saying they counted kangaroo droppings in a certain area to get a solid estimate of the population density.
So, with all this information pouring in, the researchers started to see some really stark differences between the two groups. It was like a picture was forming of two completely different kangaroo lifestyles.
The very first major difference they noticed was population density. Just how crowded was it in these two spots?
And the results for the town roos were pretty shocking. We're talking 4.6 kangaroos per hectare. That is a very dense population, all packed into a smaller area that just happens to be rich in resources.
Now, compare that to the country roos, only 1.3 kangaroos per hectare. They have so much more space to just roam and be kangaroos. And this one huge difference in how crowded they are, it's the foundation for almost every other behavioral change we're about to see.
This crowding didn't just stop at living space, it spilled over into their social lives too. You can see it right here on this chart. The town roos, they hung out in bigger groups on average, almost 3.5 roos per group, compared to just over 2 for their country cousins.
Okay, this next part is wild. It's their daily schedules. The town roos are the super early risers, most active between 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. Meanwhile, the country roos have a much more relaxed start, getting going between 6 and 11 a.m. The townies are literally shifting their entire commute just to avoid us and our traffic.
So how does living in the city affect how they spend their day? Well, for the town roo, a huge chunk of their time is spent on what's called vigilance. That means standing upright, ears twitching, constantly scanning their surroundings. They're on high alert. It suggests a life with a whole lot more stress.
But in contrast, you have the country roo. They spend way less time looking over their shoulder and much more time just eating. They can actually afford to relax and graze, while their urban cousins are constantly on guard.
And all that stress, it totally affects their social lives. Town roos were way more aggressive, fighting, pushing other kangaroos away from food. The country roos, on the other hand, were having more friendly interactions, like grooming each other. It's really the difference between a tense commuter on a packed train and a relaxed vacationer in the countryside.
Okay, so we've seen what's different, the population density, their daily schedules, their social lives. But now let's get into the why. What is driving these massive changes in their behavior? Well, the researchers basically connected all the dots. All that extra vigilance, that's a direct response to us, our activity, and also visual barriers like buildings and fences. The earlier start to their day, as we saw, that's to avoid people in cars. And the aggression? Well, that's what happens when you have higher density and more competition for everything.
But here's one of the most surprising things they found, and it's about their eating habits. Why do the town roos spend less time eating? You'd think it'd be the opposite, right? Well, it's because the food is just better. The fertilized grass on farms and in parks is so nutritious, it's like a superfood. They can get all the calories they need in way less time.
What this all proves is that these changes aren't random at all. The kangaroos are intelligently and actively adapting to our presence. They're changing their entire daily routine, their whole way of life, specifically to work around us.
Now, these findings aren't just fascinating animal facts. They have huge, real-world implications for how we manage the landscapes we share with wildlife, and not just kangaroos, but all animals that are adapting to our ever-expanding world. This research basically gives us a clear roadmap. Now that we understand that kangaroos in our neighborhoods are most active super early in the morning, we can identify conflict hotspots like busy roads during that 4 to 9 a.m. window, and we can develop strategies to keep both them and us a lot safer.
And believe me, the need for these strategies is urgent. The cost of human-kangaroo conflict is really high. We're talking vehicle collisions, damage to farms and property, and in some rare cases, even direct harm to people and their pets.
Like the researchers themselves said, this knowledge isn't just for academic papers. Knowing their new schedule is a genuinely powerful tool. It lets us be proactive. We can design our towns, our roads, even our own daily routines to reduce these conflicts and help us coexist.
And that leaves us with one final big thought. We've just seen how incredibly adaptable kangaroos are. But as our suburbs and our cities keep pushing further into their world, the real question becomes, are we willing to adapt too?